One of the very famous events of the Tanakh, and I'm sure that many of you are quite familiar with it, but still, familiarity with the geography depicted here can help us both to really experience the drama of the story anew, and even to pick up an idea or two that we may otherwise have overlooked. I'm standing on Tel Azikah, which is mentioned in this parak, and I'm looking out over Emek HaElah, the Elah Valley. The first thing we have to establish is what the Plishtim's general goal is over here. Being as we're looking at this from the broader picture of their overall strategy, we now understand that they're not simply fighting over this little area. They're coming from the coastal plain and trying to make their way up to the mountains. Specifically this time, they're not looking to attack in the area of Binyamin as before. Now that Shaul and Yehuda are united, the main goal must be to divide them so that they can reassume control. This is a good opportunity as there's a good reason to believe that the Plishtim knew of the natural historic divide between Yehuda and most of the other Shvatim. Our enemies often recognize even things that we ourselves at times overlook or try to brush under the rug. If the Plishtim can take advantage of this pre-existing fissure, they can more easily divide the nation. On the one hand, it would seem that the opposite occurred. It's Yehuda being attacked, and Shaul once more gathers the entire nation to help them. This again solidifies the treaty between them. Perhaps the Plishtim knew of this tactic working by Amalek, but did not imagine it would be enough against them here. In addition, we'll see that in a sense, perhaps it actually worked, or at least almost did. As such, now we can have a more precise understanding of where these events actually took place. If you were Shaul coming down from the mountains with the goals of stopping the advance of the enemy campaign, you wouldn't try to stop them by the widest part of the valley. You would want to stop them by the narrowest, using it as a bottleneck that can be more easily blocked. In that case, we have Shaul and his armies on one side, and the Plishtim directly across from them, and they wait. But here too, the geography can help us to realize that even this waiting period is so much more dramatic than we may realize at first glance. The Plishtim are coming from the west, and now are camped east of where I'm currently standing. So then, what's happening where I am now? Places like Azekah, if they were settled by Jews then, were probably little islands of Israelite inhabitants already under siege. They're now surrounded by territory currently occupied by the enemy. Not only that, but just think back to the beginning of the 2024 war in Gaza. The first weeks of the war seemed to last forever. The reserves had already been called up. They were preparing equipment and training and chasing after the infiltrators who were already beyond the Gaza border, but very little real action was being taken. We hadn't yet officially entered Gaza. Those first few weeks, you have a huge percent of the population simply on hold, neither here nor there. Not at war yet, but at the same time, day by day, slowly inches along, and almost the entire industry has come to a screeching halt. Of course, you know that the assault can't go unchecked, but at the same time, each day the pressure mounts and mounts. The economy is at a standstill, and the entire nation is sitting and waiting. If all of this isn't enough, the Plishtim send out Galiat to make a mockery of us and a huge Chilul Hashem. Their tactic is similar to how they viewed things with their pagan outlook by the Aron. Whoever's God is stronger will win anyway. Why have lots of unnecessary battle and death? One on one, winner takes all. Whoever's God is stronger, their guy will win. They figured they couldn't lose with their one guy being Galias. And in theory, maybe they were right, except they didn't really factor in how strong Dovid's faith was. All they had to do was outlast us until we had to give up, with no one willing to face Galias. And until Dovid showed up, no one was. Dovid goes forth and isn't held back by what anyone else thinks, or by whatever the accepted way of doing things were. He goes with his experience of how Hashem has helped him in the past, his knowledge that he's doing the right thing no matter the outcome, and of course, with the skills we had mentioned that he had acquired in his free time out in the field. There are Ethiopian Jews living in Israel who had been shepherds back in Ethiopia. Some of them are so skillful that they can hit the specific branch of a tree off in the distance when slinging a stone. How is this helpful for a shepherd? Besides trying to fend off predators, which is perhaps how David HaMelech fought off the lion and the bear to begin with, as he had described, first stunning them with a rock to the head and only then attacking them. It's also helpful for keeping the flock together. If each goat starts heading off in different directions, you can find yourself running in circles trying to contain them all. But with a kela, you can stay where you are and simply sling a stone. The goal is not to hit the animal, but to chase it back to the rest of the herd by striking directly to the opposite side from where you want it to go. In this way, you scare it back to where it belongs. Dovid thought outside the box. Maybe it was his experience, needing to improvise, which tends to happen when out in the field without all the comforts and tools you have close to home. Maybe it was the time he spent contemplating out in nature while shepherding that allowed him to see things from a simpler, more refined vantage point. Whatever it was, the logic was clear. This is wrong. It's evil. It's a disgrace to Hashem's name. And no one is entitled to stand by and watch in such situations. We have to stand up for what we believe in place of standing by as our beliefs are trampled. From here, the chase begins.